David Foley, here.
Gary Israel.
Peter Fox.
And Vance Garwood. Thank you. Let's move on to the minutes from the March 19th meeting.
Mr. Chairperson, I, Gary Israel, make a motion that we accept the minute from the March 12th, 2024 subdivision. Oh, excuse me. Why am I on subdivision? I'm on subdivision. Well, I had read them. From the Planning Commission, what day was that?
March 19th.
March 19th.
Yep.
Sorry.
We have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 19th Planning Commission meeting. Do we have a second?
I'm not sure I could match Gary's, but I second what he said.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Well, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes from March 19th, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Motion passes. Let's move on then to the committee and staff report and the potential development report.
We have no additional information to go with that report.
Did I see the people are starting to move in the Heritage in the residential units? I think I saw in the minutes
Yes, they have had a handful in there for a month or so.
Wow. Okay. And the build outs are starting on the retail spaces below?
They have the shell of two of the three commercial, they call them buildings. They're actually a building space that's beneath the parking garage. They have two of those shells completed, and they're about to begin the third shell, and they're now working on some tenant finishes inside.
Good. Yeah, very good. Any other questions for staff? No. If not, let's go ahead and move on to item 5. Gary, you want to make a motion to recess the planning commission and give me the...
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
I'm having a hard time logging in.
That's all right.
But Mr. Chairperson, I, Gary Israel, make a motion to recess the Planning Commission and convene the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Thank you, Gary. Do we have a second?
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Let's move on to item 5.1, which is the variance at 115 West Allison. I now call agenda item 5.1, which is a public hearing on case BZA-V23-0014. We'd like to welcome everyone and interested in this hearing and lay out a few ground rules. It's important that you present any facts or views that you have as evidence at this hearing so the facts can be made for the decision of the board. In order to grant a variance, five specific written findings of fact must all be met according to the state statutes and the city zoning regulations. This board is authorized by state statutes to make a decision appealable only to the district court and not to the governing body. After our zoning administrator provides us with some information, I'll call upon the applicant and then we will hear from other interested parties. Once all have been heard, the applicant will have an opportunity for final comments. The board will close the hearing to further public comments, and we will consider their decision, during which time they may direct questions to the applicant, the public, or staff. You should be aware that the board can require such conditions to be attached to the premises benefited by the variance as may be necessary to comply with the standards set out in Article 11.106. These are to reduce any potential injurious effect of such variance upon other property in the neighborhood and to carry out general purpose and intent of these regulations. Failure to comply with any of these conditions attached to a zoning permit for a variance shall constitute a violation of the regulations. You should also be fully aware that if the applicant chooses to describe various features of their development plans, the city can only enforce those provisions which are covered in zoning and other city codes. Anyone wishing to speak must be recognized by the chairperson to give their name and address. Please use the podium and speak clearly so that your comments can be recorded for inclusion into our minutes. Before we proceed with the hearing, I'll ask the commission members if any of them intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they or a relative own property in the area of notification or have conflicts of interest.
No.
No.
Anyone? No? Okay. Official notice for this hearing was published on the City of Andover municipal website on December 23rd, 2023. The notices were mailed out to the applicant and 8 real property owners of record in the area of notification on December 22nd, 2023. The record shows that at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and the hearing date. Unless there's evidence to the contrary from anyone present, I will declare that the proper notification has been given. Although we do not encourage such communications, I'll ask the board if any of them have received any ex parte verbal or written communications prior to this hearing which they would like to share. Anybody receive any?
No?
No?
No.
Okay. I'll now call on the city's zoning administrator to provide us with a report on this case.
Mr. Chairman, if you remember, you opened this public hearing a few months ago and you were waiting on a response from the applicant. Tonight, the applicant's representative is here in the audience. We've met with him and gone over some of the details of this building, particularly as it pertains to required parking, landscaping and such in the front of the building. In your packet, he's put together a plot plan for the building that shows how the front of the building would be configured to provide 4 parking spaces for the occupants. We also discussed the ultimate use of the building. The owner had used the word events, which triggered thoughts in our minds of what does events mean. We understand what he really wants to do is store his classic cars there and occasionally have some friends over to look at those cars or go to a ball game or whatever. So storage is not a permitted use in the B2 neighborhood business district. So we've instructed the applicant to apply for a special use for a storage warehouse, which would be very similar to the building that he owns just next door to the west. Unfortunately for timing, we couldn't get that special use application on the same agenda as tonight, but pending the outcome of this variance, he will be back next month for a zoning hearing for the storage as a use.
Thank
I
you.
think applicant's agent is here. He can answer detailed questions for you.
Do you have any questions of Les or staff yet at this time?
I do not.
So anything that you've discussed with him, is staff okay with what they've presented so far for parking and
Now that
landscaping?
we better understand what he actually intends to do with the building, we're much more comfortable than we were 60 or 90 days ago when we started this process.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll now call upon the applicant to make his or her presentation on the request and any responses to the zoning administrator's report.
Chris Hagan, address is 15050 East 24th Street North. I don't really have any questions, that's kind of what we
Yeah.
discussed and I redrew it up. And then there's another one, I guess we can't show that one because it's the variance maybe to get the 7.5 feet instead of the 10 on the sides. Go to that next. So basically it's 10 foot on the sides is what you were requiring. And since we can't build it as deep, we were wanting to make it a little wider and do 7.5 feet on the sides of the property line instead of 10. Did that picture not come through then on your email? Was the email after that one? So it showed it went through. Probably can't add it to this. It was about 30 minutes after. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't show the 7.5.
Well, it's another.
It was a separate
second email
attachment.
with basically another drawing showing the dimensions on the lot itself.
Is that 121 his building as well?
Yes. there a way to pull it up from an email, or we're not allowed to do that?
Any questions?
The required setback is 10 feet. Yes. Minimum, and they're asking on both sides.
Yeah, 7.5 each side. It's just kind of wasted space to mow.
With the utilities. Is that a utility easement or just a general easement?
It's just a building setback.
That's just
The utility easement is across the rear of the property, and it is platted. Yes.
Yeah, the building's, it's a 10-foot utility easement. It's on the 10-foot side, so we left the back 10. It's kind of a funky little lot at the end, but
Yeah, I see
so it
that.
makes it shorter. So it's off the 87 feet instead of the, whatever the long point is, the 100-something feet.
I see that. Okay.
So I have a question for Les and staff. With the setback for the parking, the landscaping, how does that then line up with the other two buildings that are there on Allison? It looks like it's further back than the one that's on the east, but not as far back from the street as the current building that the applicant owns. Is that correct?
Let me get to the GIS map.
12-foot right away, and then it starts that. So you have an additional 12 foot compared to the 121 building. So that's not in that drawing. That's another 12 past the little bushes there. That's to the street.
Okay, Gary, so
Is he on
The-
1636?
Did it come through?
Is he on 1636 too as well?
Okay,
he owns 121 West Allison also.
But not 1636 Allison.
that's the street.
No. With the platting, the front property lines would line up
Okay.
with the 1653 North
See,
Andover Road building.
Yeah,
And
right, east and west.
I can get a pretty close measurement here off of GIS. That building is set back plus or minus 30 feet.
Okay.
And if you do the math on his sketch here, that gives you a setback of 26 and a half. No, yeah, 26 and a half feet. So they would be similar. The 121 West Allison building. Yeah, would be 30 or 31 feet, so they would be similar.
Okay. So it's a little stair step.
Plus or minus a few feet, 4 or 5.
So it'd be close to 30 feet off the road though, right?
From
When you, the 10-foot,
the road,
8.6 and 8.6 and
but
4.
we're talking here from the property line,
Yeah.
not the road, which
That plus the 12 feet, right?
uh,
Right. Probably around 32 or 33.
Almost 40 feet.
From the curb, it would be almost 60 feet.
Hmm.
Because of the platting of the street right away to the minimum width.
I see.
So again, that's the reason we're here.
Yeah.
It's an unusual
Yeah.
condition.
Sure.
Remember, these are lots that were platted back in the late 1800s. And some streets were vacated, and it's just a hodgepodge.
So is staff comfortable with what is being proposed at this
Yes.
time? Okay.
Yes.
Any more questions of the applicant's agent? Gary?
I can't remember, is there a fence there between the 121 and the 115 properties?
I think so. It's about to fall over.
If I remember, there is a kind of shorter fence between them. Yeah, it's, I don't,
Yeah, would you be
3 feet,
keeping
maybe.
that, would you be keeping that fence or taking that fence down?
I don't know.
It wouldn't make much sense to keep it there.
I mean,
For
if we were
maintenance
keeping it,
purpose.
probably rebuilt, because I think it's just kind of on its last leg anyways. I would assume it'd just go away just because he,
It looks like if it went away, it'd be easier to maintain the property, you know.
right, then you
this-
just mow it together.
Yeah, mow them together and then it would look like, it wouldn't look like you're squeezing the building up against that, you know, that 7.5 feet.
Right.
Any other questions?
Well, I have a question for staff along that line then. If we were to approve that, could we make that a part of the condition that they remove that fence so that the two properties look almost like one?
You can attach whatever conditions you can support.
Well, yeah, okay. So,
There is an existing fence on both sides of this property.
yeah, I know there's the fence between this one and the 1653.
Now that this property is zoned for business and intended to be used for business, none of those fences are required. They were placed there because you remember there used
That
to be
was
a
a
residence.
Yeah. Hmm. That's interesting. You know, I would think that it would look better without the fence between the applicant's two buildings. Now,
And he
Remo-
probably, I would assume he probably gets rid of it because it doesn't look good anyways.
yeah,
I mean, either way, I mean, based on that street, it's probably gonna be the nicest looking building anyways.
yeah.
So it's improving if anything.
So what about removing the fence between the 115 and the 1653? I'm just asking the commission, you know, does that make sense then because it's all businesses?
There is a bit of a grade difference between
Okay,
the Andover Road business and this vacant lot.
okay.
Well, plus it's kind of a break between theirs
Okay.
and ours to where
So
you don't
would-
wanna, that guy might want it up.
More than likely you'd want to keep that one then.
I guess personally, I'd hesitate to dictate to the owner what to do, especially since he owns both lots.
Yeah,
I would assume that he would want to do whatever's going to look best. If it's put up a new one, great. If it's take it down and have nothing, I think that's great too. But
well, then we could say that, you know, there's, in our motion, he would not be required to keep that fence if he deemed that he wanted to remove it.
yeah, I guess, or if we don't say anything, he could,
All right.
yeah, or if we don't
Like-
say anything, he could,
Take your fence down.
if we don't say anything, he could do whatever he feels within reason, I guess, but
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't put any condition on it then?
Yeah,
Just
I don't
let
think
the
so.
applicant
That's
do
the
what he
cleanest.
wants.
yeah.
I'm just trying to think what's going to make it look appropriate without it making it look like it's just fully expanded that lot and looks different than either building on either side.
Well, thankfully, it's not homes on either side,
Yeah.
and it's going to look somewhat like I mean, I'm sure it's going to be tastefully done, but
We're gonna clean the area up.
yeah, I'm sure it's going to be nice. If there's no more questions, I'd sure entertain a motion.
Well, you
You'll-
got to go through all your.
Yeah, you'll need
conditions.
to
Yeah,
go
of
through
course,
that.
findings of fact. Yeah, sorry about that. I jumped ahead of us. Sorry about that. Any members of thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you, Chris.
Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on the case? No. Any written communication been received?
No, Mr. Chairperson.
Hearing no further public comments, I hereby close the public portion of the hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the board wishes to ask questions or clarify information. The board will now deliberate the request to determine whether the evidence presents supports the conclusions of the required findings of fact. The board will now consider the criteria provided for evaluation.
Mr. Chairperson, you want me to read those?
That'd be fine, Gary.
Okay, findings of facts. Does the evidence demonstrate that, one, the physical surrounding shape or typography of the property would result in a practical difficulty as distinguished from a mere inconvenience for the owner, leasee, or occupant? Staff has said the subject property is an unusual small lot with an irregular shape.
Concur.
Yes.
Number two, granting the variance will result in material detriment or injury to other property or improvements in the neighborhood. Staff has commented, no detriment and/or injury to other property or improvements is anticipated.
Concur.
Concur. Number three, granting the variance will result in an inadequate supply of light or air to adjacent property, substantially increase traffic congestion, increase fire risk, or substantially diminish property values in the neighborhood. Staff has commented, the subject property is located in a neighborhood with a variety of businesses and educational uses with similarly sized buildings with widely varied building setbacks. Staff does not anticipate adverse effects in the neighborhood. Concur. Number four, the results for a variance is not based exclusively on a desire of the owner, lessee, occupant, or applicant to make more money out of the property. Staff has commented, the owner has declared that the building is for personal storage and events.
Concur.
Okay, specific conditions to be met. Number one, the requested variance arises from a condition unique to the property in question, which is not ordinarily found in the same zoning district and which was not created by any action of the property owner or the applicant. Staff has commented the subject property is an unusual small lot with an irregular shape.
Concur.
Number two, strict application of the provisions of this zoning regulations would result in unnecessary hardship for the owner, lessee, or occupant of the land or structures. Staff comments, the subject property is a small, unusually shaped lot that severely limits the feasibility of supporting a building. Previous owners have been unable to devise a workable plan in full compliance with the bulk regulations.
Concur.
Number three, granting the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents. Staff comments, the subject property is located in a neighborhood with a variety of business and educational uses with similarly sized buildings with widely varied building setbacks. Staff does not anticipate adverse effects in the neighborhood.
Concur.
Yes.
Number four, the requested variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare. Staff comments that the subject property is surrounded by public and business uses. Staff does not anticipate adverse effects in the neighborhood.
Concur.
Concur.
Number 5, the requested variance will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of these zoning regulations. Staff comments that the intent of required building setbacks and maximum lot coverage limits are to provide open space separations from adjacent properties. The subject property is surrounded by public and business uses. Staff does not anticipate adverse effects in the neighborhood from the reduced open space.
Concur.
Concur.
Thank you, Gary. Is there a motion to either approve, modify and approve, disapprove, or table the discussion? I can go ahead and make the motion.
Yeah.
Having considered the evidence at the hearing and determined that the findings of fact have been found to exist that support all 5 conditions set out in subsection 11-106.b2 of the zoning regulations and KSA 12-759E, I, Vance Garwood, move that the chairperson be authorized to sign a resolution granting the variance for case number BZA-V23-0014 as requested, and that the following conditions must be attached to the approval. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Does that need to include the 7.5 foot setback on the sides? Okay. I would second the motion as presented.
All right, we have a motion and a second by Gary. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thanks for coming. Yeah. A resolution will be prepared and made available to the applicant as soon as reasonably possible, but no later than 45 days from the date of this hearing. If anyone is aggrieved by this decision, a further appeal can be made to the district court to determine the reasonableness within 30 days of the resolution is signed and filed with the zoning administrator.
Mr. Chairperson, I, Gary Israel, make a motion to adjourn the Board of Zoning Appeals and reconvene the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Gary. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning the Board of Zoning and Appeals and reconvening the Planning Commission, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right, motion passes. Let's move on to item 5.2. This seems pretty straightforward. Staff having some comments on this?
The subdivision committee reviewed this a couple of weeks ago. And if there was ever a classic case for a lot split, this is it. It's a rather large reserve that again was platted back in the 1800s. It has been developed around by single family residential uses. We understand that the intent here is for an owner to own the existing single family home on the property, and another owner would own the vacant land separated by this lot split, which would be brought back to us at a later date to replat into 2 or 3 single family residential lots.
Thank you, Les. Any questions or comments from the committee here?
Is it possible that those, and I'm speaking hypothetically, of course, but could they, since there is multifamily zone next to it, is it possible they could be zoned multifamily?
Sure, that option is always out there. It would require a public hearing in order to change the zoning district because it's currently zoned for single family only.
Thanks.
But the property could be broken up into 2 or 3 different lots.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments? Sounds like staff's on board with this. Pretty straightforward. Yep. I don't have any questions.
The applicant here?
No?
No?
Are you a neighbor?
No, I'm just here to watch.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
good.
I saw this place up.
Yeah.
That sounds like something we went into, so.
Oh,
Is there a limit on what lot can be?
Yes. Yeah, there is. If and when the time comes, you do something like that, visit with staff about it. Yep. Can't be so small only a doghouse fits. Any other questions? No? If not, we entertain a motion to recommend this. Recommend for approval.
Well, Mr. Chairperson, I, Gary Israel, recommend that the Planning Commission approve the lot split of 505 West Allison Street, Andover, Kansas.
David Foley, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the lot split. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. That is about as simple as we've ever seen.
Okay.
What do we have for member items? I don't know, we've been introduced.
My name is David Westphal, I'm the planning and zoning administrator. I
Okay.
just started the 25th.
Okay.
Yeah. just
You said
taking my-
David?
Correct. Yeah, David Westphal.
Okay, very good. I'm Vance. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you,
Go.
Vance.
I guess our name's right there, isn't it? Where'd you come from?
Well, I was originally in the Army for the last 11 years and originally grew up in Andover
Really?
before that. So yeah,
Neat.
happy to be back home.
Okay.
Mm.
Everyone else probably knows this. Maybe I'm the only one that doesn't. But yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you as well, Vance.
So you're in the city limits then?
Yes, I live just off Harry.
Yeah, good. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Well,
Any other member?
Y is gonna open?
What's that?
Is the Y said when they're gonna open up again?
Yes, I saw in the news, they intend to have a grand opening on May 20th.
The whole place?
Yes.
Well, all right.
We were at the East Y on Saturday morning for a niece's, she's 3, soccer game, and I went in the Y in the building. Man, that East Y is packed.
Right. It's
Those-
like Andover
yeah.
Extension.
Right. Those normal East Y attendees must be excited
Right.
about this as the Andover.
And take some
Folks.
pressure off of them.
Yeah.
We've heard that.
And that Y is not, I don't know what year it was built, but it's nothing like the Andover Y is.
Right. Right. If you remember, the Andover was the Super Y when it was built.
Mhm.
There was not another one like it in the country.
Huh.
They actually brought potential YMCA operators from around the country to Andover to see this latest prototype. Now we have, what are there, 7 similarly sized Ys in Wichita,
Wow.
where most cities our size might have 1.
Yeah, I drove by today and the parking lot was just full of workers.
It's been that way for months.
Mhm. The
I look
fallout.
forward to it being open so I can start swimming.
Yeah.
Is the main footprint going to be the same or is it altered a lot?
The 4 walls are the same. They've made some changes on the inside. The rock climb wall was replaced by a play structure.
Uh-huh. I did see a picture of that.
Yeah, that play structure that's in there is going to be is similar to the one that's going to be at the 13th Street Park.
Okay. Yeah, very good. Any other member items or questions? How far does the Redbud Trail go east? How far can you go on it?
It
Augusta?
ends at US 54
Okay.
crossing, which is out by Indianola Road.
Okay.
But Augusta is working on the interim trail use and replacing some bridges to make a connection all the way over to Augusta.
Oh, neat. Anything else?
Mr. Chairperson, I, Gary Israel, make a motion to adjourn the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals.
Thank you, Gary. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. It's probably the shortest one we've ever had.